took over to now, how much progress have you made getting this thing where you want it to go?
Yeah, we've really done a lot in a little short amount of time. In terms of where we need to be, we still got a long way to go, but we have some great pieces in place. We have a great coaching staff. Personnel staff's been awesome. So far so good. I've been really, really excited to work with everybody. It's been awesome.
And when you looked at the free agent class, what was it that stood out to you about the players, guys you collected in the whole plan?
Yeah, I think it was really, we set out to get players that fit what we do, first of all, on the field, play the way we want them to play style, and then the right type of people as well. And both of those things were really points of emphasis for us. And the way you do that, I think a lot of times is, people research, you can research other teams, but the best evaluations you can do are when you're around somebody day in and day out. So we happened to get a lot of guys that we had really good familiarity with and knew what they were all about, and knew their play style, their mentality, the way they practiced, the way they worked, how much they loved football. So those were the things we set out to do, and I thought our team did a really good job of getting those guys in.
Why Marcus, and how serious was the conversation about Darnold or Jacoby or somebody else like that?
Yeah, Marcus, obviously he's been in the league a long time. He's won a lot of games. He's won playoff games. So knowing him he has a great relationship with Brian Johnson, who put in a great word for him. And so understanding what he's all about and the type of person he'd be in that room supporting whoever else is in that room. So, and the fact that he's still really good. He's athletic. He can throw it. He's smart, and he's got familiarity with what we do. So we're really, really happy to get Marcus in. We explored, I think anytime in free agency you have to explore a number of different options because you don't know who you're going to get, but we're really excited to have Marcus.
What about the decision to trade Sam?
With Sam, yeah, it wasn't an easy decision, and even since I first started talking with you guys when I got here, he's tough. He's really tough. He's smart. He's a great kid. He's talented. He's athletic. So there's a lot of great things about Sam. Ultimately, we thought as we went through that process, we talked with his representatives. We let him know what we were doing, throughout it all. And once we decided as an organization that we're going to explore a trade, we got some good interest. And ultimately, Seattle was really excited to get him. Him and his agent is Bruce Tolner, really, really good agent and a friend of mine, and they were excited about getting to Seattle. So I think it was one of those things where it really worked out for us, it worked out for Sam, and then it worked out for the Seahawks.
You guys obviously signed a lot of players, only re-signed a few. How much of all that was just ultimately, look, this was a team that was coming off a 4-win season, and you just needed to reshape a lot of things?
Yeah, I think, we brought in guys, like we said, who we had great familiarity with, and the players that we brought in from Washington from the year before, I don't know if you guys saw last night with F.A. was special, what his presentation last night, but the players that we found, like Jeremy Reeves and F.A. and Cornelius and Jameson, those guys fit both what we do from a schematic standpoint and from a character standpoint. So we were really excited to bring those guys back, and then so there was really no concerted effort either way to bring back commanders or not bring back commanders, just bringing in the guys that we thought could help us win and would help us build our culture.
Well, you've had a lot of new additions to the roster, a lot of one-year contracts. Can you kind of talk about the strategy behind that?
Yeah. So, we have a lot of optionality moving forward by doing that. So a lot of it's by design, a lot of it's by just who's available and how they're available and how many years they want to sign for. But finding being able to sign some guys for longer term and some guys for shorter term, keeping the optionality for next year. We always want to build through the draft, and it's funny to say that, and we signed a lot of free agents, but I think we need to sign free agents in order to field the team, really. And but this gives us optionality, and we're going to build through the draft this year and next year and continue to do that and supplement through free agency.
You had two linebackers, Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louisville. What do each one of those guys add?
Man, those guys are awesome. Really excited to bring both of them in. Frankie it just jumps off the tape. You know, the way he plays, his play style, his mindset, his mentality. He's a playmaker. And on top of that, he's extremely passionate. I didn't know much about Frankie from other than watching him play and saying, I want that guy on my team. But you do research, and all his teammates absolutely love him. He's a great leader. So he brings a lot of versatility on our defense as well. And then Bobby's going to be a Hall of Famer. And Bobby brings, all those different things you see off the field, the leadership, the toughness, the work ethic. But then he's also a Pro Bowler. He's a really, really good player still. And so you have those two things. They complement each other well. And I think with Bobby being the quarterback of the defense, that allows Frankie to do things. Frankie can really do well.
And with Bobby, when you look at it, because when you get to a certain point, you want to make sure, what did you see on film last year that this guy can still play?
I think you just turn it on, you can see it. It was actually, I was watching him a few weeks before free agency, and it was actually against us. And so, one, Sam had a really good game there. As you can see why the Seahawks really like Sam, but then you see how good Bobby is, and just the way he can see things, and his range and his tackling ability, all those things. It's just there hasn't been a drop off really, so it's been really cool. Yeah.
When you were with the Niners, you were parts of big trades up and big trades back.
Yeah.
When you look at that number 2 overall pick, how do you balance the player you can get there versus the haul you could get for it if you're trying to build through the draft?
Yeah, it's a really it's a big decision, obviously, but I think just like anything we do, it's about what's best for us, right? So if the best thing for us is to stand pat, then we'll stand pat. But you're always going to listen to all the different possibilities, trading up, trading back, no matter where you're at. Pick 36, 40, 67, 70, 800. So you're always going to look, okay, what are the best things for us? Weigh all the different possibilities and make the best decision you think for us at the time.
Whether you're gonna tell us or not, do you know right now what you want to do?
Now we still have a lot of it. We a month till the draft
Sure.
today, yeah, right. So it doesn't sound like a long time, but you get a lot of information in that month, and there's still some of the guys we haven't seen still in person. So we'll go out and do that next week, see a couple more quarterbacks, and then we'll do visits with them. We'll do Zoom calls. We'll do a lot of different things. So we're far from our answer.
When you're at these pro days, what do you care about? Like, what are you looking for?
You get a lot of information at these pro days. It's obviously you get to see the person in the flesh, for lack of a better term, up close and personal. See them work out, whether it's a tackle doing a pass set or punch in the bag. You can feel them punch in the bag if you're this close, which you can't really see or feel on tape. But then, aside from the player evaluation, the people you'd speak with, so you get a chance to talk to different people on that staff, talk to different people in the NFL, you get a lot of information by doing that, and whether it's on that player, whether it's on a player that they played against, the player they coached before, all that. So it's a really, really valuable tool where you do it and you don't realize how valuable it is until the end of the week when you're kind of aggregating all the information. Like, gosh, we got a ton of information. This was a great week, and that's what last week was.
Back
What
to
do
the
you-
linebackers real quick, how do the 2 additions impact Jamin Davis and kind of your decision on this 5th-year option coming up?
Yeah, we still haven't talked through the 5th-year option yet with myself and DQ. But I think, you play with 3 linebackers, right? And so I think Jamin has a great skill set, and I think learning from a guy like Bobby is going to be invaluable to any linebacker. And so we're going to try to get the best 11 on the field at all times, and that's DQ's job, and he's a master at that, finding different personnel groupings. So however we can get a really good defense on the field, that's what he's going to do.
When you're at the pro days with the quarterbacks, what are you looking for? Because obviously they're thrown on air. So what are some of the little things you're looking for just to get a feel for the guy?
You can see leadership in those things, in terms of how they direct their team and their teammates and all that. That's really cool to see, their communication, their leadership. You can see how they look physically, which you can't totally see on the tape all the time. You can see it a little bit at the combine. A lot of times they're wearing sweats and whatnot. So you get to see their body type, kind of how big and strong they are. And then you can feel their arm strength. You can look at their footwork, their touch. There's just so many different things you can see in person that maybe you couldn't really see on tape.
Have you gotten any clarity? You've talked about you want to know what everybody else is doing. it seems like folks are starting to draw a conclusion for the Bears at number 1. Do you allow for a conclusion to be drawn there and really start to focus on what's going to be available at 2?
Yeah, I think you got to be prepared for anything. You know, I can't assume that they're doing, they're drafting a certain guy at number 1. So, because if you do that and then they don't, then you're like, oh shoot. But so you always have to prepare for everything. Prepare like any option's open. And so, regardless of how much information that you have that says one thing leading up to it, you don't know until that card's turned in.
Dan said, I think the NFL Network the other day, that you can probably fair to say you can envision you guys taking a quarterback of the wear to ask you. But when did you?
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I guess we can start with go with that. Like, is what were you at, like, sort of on this? The idea of trading down. Obviously, anything is possible, but is that something you would actively seek, or?
I think just like I hate to sound like a broken record here, but we're gonna do whatever we think's best for the team. So whether that's any of those different options, I mean, we have two quarterbacks on the roster right now, with Jake and with Marcus. So you want to go to camp with 4. So we're going to add 2 one way or the other. So however that happens, then that's what we're going to do.
And then, I was saying, just to follow up on that, when he says fair to say you can envision a quarterback, when for you in this process did you think to yourself, when did you start envisioning that a quarterback was probably something that was going to be in the cards?
I think really at any position, you want to make that room as strong as it can and as competitive as you can. So whether it's quarterback or, center, guard, whatever it is, you're always looking to add and make sure that you have competition in every room. That's something that Dan preaches all the time. So with 2 in the room, you're going to get 2 more and hopefully make that room as strong and as deep as possible.
Seems like you guys have a hole at left tackle. Is that something you plan to address, maybe the rest of free agency? Is that a draft thing? How do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, I think, you said it's a hole. I think we have Cornelius there now, and we have Trent Scott, who's played well too. So I don't know if it's a hole in our view, but those guys have played and started and done pretty well. So, but just like the quarterback question, same thing. If we get a chance and we're in position to add a really good player there or anywhere, we'll do that.
You would be comfortable with those guys starting then?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you look at the quarterbacks, does it matter to you how ready they are to come right in and play?
Yeah, you weigh that. How ready are they immediately, or how much work do they have to do, and then how can you get them there? And so, with the guys we have in the room right now, I don't think we have to rush anybody, and so that's a great thing. Whether with Marcus in there, with Jake in there, we're not going to have to rush whoever. If we draft a guy, we wouldn't have to rush him into play right away, and that's not how we work anyway. We're going to play the person who's going to give us the best chance to win.
Is there a right way to develop a young quarterback, to let him sit, throw him right in? Like, you've been parts of organizations that have gone a million different directions.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to do in sports, I think, is evaluate and develop a quarterback. And but what you want to do is make sure you do as much as you can to let them develop. So we've built. DQ did an incredible job in terms of building a great ecosystem for quarterbacks. In our building, when you have Cliff, then you have Brian Johnson, you have Tavita, and we have David Blau too. So there's 4 people right there that they'll be able to focus on the quarterback room, and it's like 4 quarterbacks, right? So you get it's a 1-to-1 teacher.
Yeah.
Student ratio. That's pretty good. But no, I think that was intentional the way we did that, and so. You give yourself the best chance to develop whoever's in that room as fast as you can.
How much of your off-season moves have been about creating maximum flexibility for yourself during the NFL draft weekend?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and yeah, you always want to do that. You never want to get in a situation where you're drafting for need, and we don't ever want to do that. So a lot of that was the moves that we made is so we don't have to do that. Come in with a team where you think you feel ready to play, and then you can draft the best player available, and that's so. I feel really good. Our guys did an incredible job of getting out and getting as many guys as possible that fit what we do, and so that makes our job easier in the draft, where we can go ahead and pick the guys that we think are going to be the best commanders.
How much
One more.
You can each do one.
Okay. I would say, how hard is it to not fall in love with one of the quarterbacks at this point? I know, like, you kind of went through this with the coaching search, where you just kind of went through the process, but is it sometimes hard to not fall in love with that guy, and how do you kind of divorce yourself from not doing so? Unless he's that good, of course.
Yeah, it's funny, like with anything, when you're interviewing anybody, whether it's quarterback or coach or whatever, you just get a chance to, you really get to know these people and you really like them. You know, I don't know, that's just kind of how it goes. That's how I am anyway. Maybe I'm a sucker, but that's why it's good to have a great process and to go be thorough with your process and not make snapshots and judgments and have recency bias, who the last person you talk to, oh, he's my favorite. So going through the whole process, like we were saying, all the way up to draft day and making the best decision with all that information and trying to be as unbiased as possible.
One thing I don't think we've asked you, and I apologize if we have, is before, I think the end of the season, John Allen was on the radio talking about how he might not have the appetite to go through another rebuild. Do you expect him to be with the team this year?
Well, we're recalibrating, so we're not rebuilding.
That's what his words, not mine.
No, we've had some great talks with Jonathan and can't wait to work with him. He's awesome. He's a great young man, and he's a great player. And so really excited to work with him. So I don't, we are not interested in trading him.